As befits a proper fresh RTS news video, I have a mix of new releases, updates of your favorite games, recommendations from current sales on Steam and GoG, as well as showcases of demos, playtests or betas of upcoming real-time strategy games, so let's dig in, starting with something totally fresh and made in the Unreal Engine 5. Whale of Ashes is funded already, so no worries about it never getting a release date. What you can expect is a real-time tactics game set in a dark steampunk universe, with both multiplayer and skirmish modes of up to 8 players, based on commanding units ranging from basic infantry squads to colossal steel behemoths with huge caliber barrels sticking out of them. The main gameplay aspect is controlling strategic points across the map and draining the enemy team's points while earning reinforcement points during battle to request stronger units, tactical strikes and support. There are going to be 3 factions in this indie game, a unit customization system and destructible environments. Yes, it looked too good to be true to me too, but one of the 4 developers said most assets are being made by them. Another new indie game whose graphics, textures and effects look really good now is Lessaria Fantasy Kingdom Sim, which had an open playtest on Steam and will have a demo in the future before its release. It is, as its name says, a simulation of being the master of a kingdom set in a fantasy universe, but the main twist is that you don't control units directly, but with orders to attack, defend or explore a specific enemy or part of the map. It follows the footsteps of Majesty games to the letter with variations and additions, like the hero squads and threat mechanic, while the devs promise that even the original voice actor will return for his role as the advisor. I played it and really liked it, so I hope you will too. Well, for now you can wishlist and follow it on Steam to get notified when the demo becomes available. For a full RTS with base building and unit combat, we should move on to Red Chaos The Strict Order next, whose developers have been improving it since the demo was available back in January. They have switched the AI voiceovers for real actors, something I suggested to them and also something I know you will highly appreciate. Since they are in the final stretch before early access release, they are fine-tuning the visuals and the gameplay balance between the 2 factions, the Resistance and Iron Hand, which both have infantry vehicles, air units and explosive superpowers at their disposal. These indie devs are planning to add new maps, new units, possibly even a new faction during the early access period, and I hope the sales will be enough to fund all of this. I have played this one extensively and watched it improve, so I hope you will enjoy it when it is released in a few months from now. One more indie game that is improving by leaps and bounds, but one that I haven't yet gotten to test out, is Strategos. This one is being called the Indie Total War by many, although it is not a good comparison as this one does not have the turn-based map part of the gameplay. On the other hand, it will have about 100 factions and over 200 units from the ancient world, matching or even exceeding some Total War games in that regard. The developers did send me this great footage of the battles to showcase to you, and I should also mention all their recent improvements and additions. Most importantly, for such large-scale battles, they have improved the performance, added a cinematic camera mode, made unit banners more readable, and besides adding a new map, have also slowed down the general pace of the game to make everything more controllable. There are another 100 changes they have made, but I would actually like to read in the comments, do you think they can reach or even surpass Total War's real-time battles? For all of you who prefer to have base building in your RTS, how about you also make room for some dinosaurs in there too? Because in Repterra you will have to defend your base against these massive stomping beasts in their own home. The private beta version is already up and running, and you can still apply to play it on their website, a link to which is on their Steam store page. Now, in your quest to reclaim the planet from the dinos, you can start to tame, breed and even genetically modify your own. In the story mode, you will have access to Attack 3, while the max count in battles is up to 100,000 enemies with the game running on 60 frames per second. Since base building is a major part of gameplay, you will need production lines, power grids, walls, but oddly enough, there are no defense towers. Now, one of my favorite large-scale base builders with massive unit count battles has received an update. This is Beyond All Reason Season 2 patch, which also brings lots of news about the free-to-play game for its growing player base. First major adjustment is that faction difference in constructor build power and energy efficiency of wind turbines is being ironed out so that players don't feel forced to use one faction's wind turbines over another's. The very first units from land and air factories are also being balanced to make fighting against Tech 1 spams easier, and lasers will now become 100% accurate. The cloaking and radar units and buildings are also being overhauled extensively, as some combos have proven to be simply too good, especially in the hands of experienced players. Cortex faction's Tech Level 2 vehicles have been improved, while Armada's T2 most used bots are nerfed a bit. A few ships and some amphibious vehicles have also had their stats changed to make them more useful or in line across factions. The developers have also decided to tweak the system which controls the player's open skill rating, while they will make the top 100 leaderboard of the first season forever accessible on their website. To start off competing in Season 2, you can join the official Bar 1v1 tournament named the Alpha Cup, which will kick off on April 12th. It is a hell of a game and I hope it keeps growing as it deserves. One more game which can reach similar massive scale battles just in a medieval/fantasy setting is Diplomacy is Not an Option, which didn't just get several updates, but is also on sale right now on both Steam and GoG. Just some of the new features are extra challenge maps, a new endless mode where you play with the undead faction, new maps for the sandbox mode transferred from the campaign, as well as new enemies added to this open game mode. As for combat gameplay, the developers have added a split command. This will allow you to reduce the selection of an army down to half the units, but more importantly by unit type, meaning half the archers, half the sword infantry, half the cavalry and so on. Really handy when you have to defend from 2 or more sides in a battle. There are more smaller fixes and improvements, and if you haven't played this game before, I can tell you from lots of personal experience with it, you're missing out. Another combat-rich game which does lack base building but makes up for it in storytelling and a great campaign mode is Terminator Dark Fate Defiance and its first DLC VR Legion, both of which are now on sale on Steam and GoG. The developers have posted their roadmap for this game, which shows you they are planning to improve its skirmish and multiplayer, as well as to add both free and paid additional content. They are going to change how the reinforcement system works to allow us to customize armies and save our presets. The Conquest Mode DLC is upcoming content that will give us a sort of a sandbox and open-ended game mode where each faction will be fighting for sectors of a strategic map, with different mission types showing up as battles. The free content will be focused on skirmish and multiplayer to unlock more modes of play across both. Lastly, the next story campaign DLC will continue the story and bring in new tech to the factions. One more game you might be interested in that is on sale right now on Steam is Conan Unconquered. It is actually a little known game from none other than Petroglyph, but it is more a survival RTS than a conventional one. Set in the universe of Conan with beasts and men, it allows you to build a stronghold, even together with other players if you choose to play it in the multiplayer, and defend it with your hero and army from wave after wave of increasingly more difficult enemies, like giant snakes and scorpions, necromancers and flying demons. As for RTS games you can buy on sale at the GOG store, I can recommend Regiments, the tactical war game in which the Cold War goes hot in a full campaign and you can keep playing the operations and skirmish battles, to try out the 100 plus period authentic vehicles from half a dozen nations. If you prefer old school games but don't have World in Conflict, now you can get the complete edition on sale and test your skills against the Russians as they invade not just Europe but also USA in a campaign experience that is unforgettable. To those who like a sci-fi setting more, I would recommend Starship Troopers Terran Command, where human marines battle it out with bugs of all sizes and shapes across different planets during both day and night missions. Watching the movie or reading the original book is optional, but I recommend those too. Stellar Warfare is also on sale if ships and space combat is more your thing. Here you also have space station construction, and the developer has been updating the game for years now. It can get hectic, but the effects and visuals make it look amazing. Battlefleet Gothic Armada is another space team RTS with no base building, but it has Warhammer 40k lore to make up for it. Monolithic Imperial Gothic capital ships against floating heaps of orc space junk is a sight to behold, and after the campaign, you can enjoy many hours of battling with custom warships from several factions including Chaos and Eldar. Manor Lords almost does not need an introduction, and it isn't even out of early access. Playing it in the peaceful sandbox mode or with an imminent invasion army coming to burn your settlement makes almost no difference to just how fun it can be. Another space RTS I always recommend to both old and new players of the genre is Nexus: The Jupiter Incident. With its amazing campaign, customizable ships of different classes, and dozens of different weapon systems, you forget that you need base building in such a game. One more game with no base building on sale is WARNO. It is another Cold War gun hot game, and it has both free and paid DLCs. 6 nations and their arsenals of war are at your disposal, meaning about 1,000 different land and air units. Now there is one more free-to-play RTS that has massive battlefields in which you can construct sprawling bases which produce hundreds of units. This one is titled 0K and you can find it on Steam. It recently had a 1v1 tournament because it has a long-standing and faithful player base, and since the developers know that players like to have tech tiers, they have even implemented these in their game but in a special game mode. Besides the multiplayer aspect of up to 16 players, leaderboards and co-op, you can also enjoy its 100 different units in over 70 galaxy-spanning campaign missions in solo or co-op modes. One of the newest games I have seen is titled Calyx, and for now I can tell you that it has a very interesting gameplay idea, because on this alien planet your enemy is not some robots or squads of aliens with guns, but a huge organism that covers the planet with its appendages, and it creeps and crawls coming for your landing site and base. Here your job is to both fight off its encroaching advance and mine, collect and ship off resources from this alien planet. The developers have added more units and content since the RTS Fest demo, updated the targeting system for player units, put in a new resource, mining system, and more. Another game I like that got an update recently is 9-bit Armies A Bit Too Far, with brand new maps, some of which might look very familiar if you have been gaming for a long time. This Sonic Universe themed map is just one of these, and it was quite fun to play as it gives you several choices on how to defeat enemies. Land, sea and air approaches are all valid strategies on this map, but a super weapon or two is a must. These new maps work in both multiplayer and skirmish, and if you haven't played this game before, I hope this gives you another reason to do so now. One of the newest releases is an RTS with base building I have shown you a few times in the past, so the title Tactical Warfare might be familiar to you already. The early access release came with 2 campaigns, one for each faction, multiplayer and skirmish for up to 6 players. What is different about it is its base construction system, which allows you to place buildings down as blueprints and queue up construction and unit recruitment. There are no construction units, but there are lots of infantry, vehicles and air units including turrets. The UI at the bottom has a few interesting options, which include changing the weapon loadout of your infantry units. You can take direct first-person control of a single unit, while the camera itself can be switched into a few modes, including an isometric one. Now, I have mentioned Wartorn in one of my previous videos, but now I have the actual demo to showcase to you, which you can play yourself by downloading it from the game's Steam store page. It is a squad and skill-based tactical RTS, which has mission and unit progression, where you unlock new units, level them up if they survive to the end, and mix their abilities to deal extra damage to enemy squads. The demo is quite well structured as both a tutorial and story introduction, where you'll learn about your heroes, their abilities, different squads of melee and magical units, as well as unique monsters and magical creatures. It might be a long way from a regular RTS game, but the demo itself makes it worth checking out. I personally quite enjoyed it. An even more unorthodox RTS is one that is a hybrid with an FPS, and there are too few active ones, which is why I love to showcase every update Silica gets. Now it has received a facelift of sorts, with an addition of a new UI for both RTS and FPS views, new map and a performance boost, in large part due to moving the game to a newer version of the Unity engine. You can now save your progress in a match, have better zoom when using a vehicle yourself, and additional tech levels have been added, making the maximum level 8. Apart from more fixes, map resource balancing and improvements, construction times and respawn delays have been reduced, speeding up the match pace and allowing for more effective counters when you get attacked. The one update that is long awaited by players and yet still to come will improve collision avoidance and the AI, which I know is something more than a few players are annoyed by. As for more classical RTS games, I can show you the improvements to gameplay the indie developer behind Fungal Front has made. This one is still in development, but shows excellent progress and potential. The game did have to go through a full rebuild, as the design for the multiplayer required a deterministic engine so that everything would work fast and stay in sync even if you had a bad internet connection. I have mentioned this game and its fungal world full of sentient mushrooms with mind-bending powers before, and your military and scientific expedition would have a bad time without air power or tanks, which the humans did bring to this world. Eximius Sees the Frontline is another hybrid of RTS and FPS gameplay, and it's still very much active, going into its 4th season on Steam. Devs run regular double XP events and PvP fests, which you are invited to. With Season 4, 2 new divisions have been added to the game, which bring new units, upgrades, commander abilities and even cosmetic packs. The developers are now even implementing the commander license, which is a way to help new players get into the game, while veterans can now play on the impossible difficulty and enjoy new music and visuals. Since the game is based on 10-player matches, meaning 2 commanders and 8 squad leaders, it is much easier to get a match going than in similar games. Now, since I have yet to even go through all the new games and updates I have found, expect more such videos soon, and until then check out the cards on the screen and links in the description for videos you might have missed. Thank you for watching and happy gaming!